Liza, are you okay with postponing and not scheduling a housing meeting until?
Can we just have a chat afterwards?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just figured that may be the easiest.
Just have a few questions.
Because was there actually the other thing I was looking for was the 2005 net for Kids Place, was that in there? I mean. Oh, why not? I didn't see-
2000 for Kids Place?
Yeah, I saw 2004, that's what like I thought, I printed all this out for 2004, but I couldn't see anything for 2005.
2003.
I saw preliminaries, but those. Those.
It's been so long since actually. 2022, 23, 24, 26. You're right, it is missing. 25 is. 20. 20.
So it should have been something that looked like this.
990.
2004.
Oh, that budgets to actuals.
But for 2005, not for. This is 2004. I just picked up the one that was most. Current and complete, it wasn't.
January. I wonder if they don't have them.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Ready.
Like they weren't ready.
Yeah, because this was submitted to us just within the last couple of weeks, and for them realistically to have January to December 2025, they probably don't.
Okay.
Would be my guess. But that's a question that we can absolutely. Liza, is your brain in overdrive mode after sitting through the finance committee discussion?
I'm so glad I was there.
It's a lot.
I lost focus twice, so I
It's-
thought that was good.
It's easy to do, because it's a lot, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And those discussions really put it in perspective of how much there is.
Yeah. There we go.
All right. Very live and ready to go whenever you guys are.
All right, give me a minute. I'm trying to call it up in my computer is now. Kapok. Sure. Look, if I do the chord like this, I think it's. I think I need a new chord.
It's actually the. Where it plugs.
Yeah.
My computers have a piece of tape on it just to make it kind of. Stick.
I have to take a picture of myself to get in.
That.
I'll be ready in just a minute. Are we live?
Yeah.
Where is everyone else?
I guess this is it.
Well, don't they come? Oh, Gina's here. I saw her come in.
Okay. I'm in.
Where is Karen?
She's coming in to look at some other stuff too.
Oh, sorry, I thought everybody knew. So Carol is in Boston. So I'm
You're the
sitting
boss.
in the Carol seat.
Nice chair is chair.
Oh, almost in.
I see her a little fast.
All right. Thank you. Good morning. We're ready to start. It's 9:04. And I'm sitting in for Carol today, so she it's an honor. Glad to take it off her plate, but here we are, big topic. We're going to be talking about the proposals from our nonprofits for funding from the town. We have a bit of a different format this year because we have a standard MOU that they filled in for the most part. I thought that was a good improvement because we got some consistent information that we were looking for that we had talked about last year. And I think for the most part, those supporting documents were very helpful. So I really want to start off with two comments. One, saying thank you to all of the nonprofits who put these packets together. That was a lot of work and well done. And also recognizing the value of what these nonprofits deliver to our community, making our community and enriching our lives better. And just recognizing that. I'm assuming we should discuss each one in order of, unless you have, I was thinking alphabetical or what, but I think we go in order of what is in our file. Does that sound good?
Yeah, the only, I would have suggested that you just go in order of how we have them on the trio sheet, but it really doesn't matter.
Okay,
Trio, she's.
sound good? Okay. Sorry, I'm taking a moment to get into the.
And I have it open in here too, so if you guys need me to read any information
No,
that
which one
someone
was
might not
first?
have, it'd be below.
Which one does that put first? I had my,
The library.
the library.
Yeah.
Library.
Yeah, so it's in the folder, they will be ordered the same way as they would on Trio, just because I have the numbers in there, so.
Yeah.
And I did email you all yesterday afternoon, I'm not sure if you all had a chance or you got to see that email. But I provided, what I did is I provided one PDF for you.
Yeah.
Because the Trio document, when you look at the percent change from 26 to 27, it looks like there's a decrease. But that is a little skewed in terms of reality, because in there was a one-time contribution that was asked by the land trust last year of $5,000. And so the PDF that I provided you yesterday afternoon was showing without that removed what the percent change is for these, which with all of them combined, it's a little under 2% increase for this department with the requests and the increases.
Thank you, that was helpful. All right, well, let's proceed. Let's take a look at the library. Their request last year, which was granted, was for 25,000, and it looks like they're asking for an increase of 5,000. Who would like to, there's no one here from the library? Okay. Is there anyone that would like to kick it off?
I could.
Okay,
I could
good.
ask, why the increase? I mean, I guess it's in our packet, but.
It's in the packet. I didn't see anything in their application that gave specific reasons for the increase. And no one is here from the library.
I'm just looking at so last time when I was looking at it, so the January through December 2025, they had a net loss, I guess you would say, of 13,000 and some change. So perhaps they're trying to cover that. Is that what you see?
I also see that, let me get there, 2020.
The description in the MOU does say that historically the stipend has been applied to support wages and salaries, and those items have consistently increased, so.
Right.
Yeah.
The way I'm reading it is because that's the specifics that they're indicating, that they're asking for an increase. I think the question is, when under the request, they said last brief increase was in 2018. So my question to them would be are you increasing it because there is a need, or are you simply asking it because we have to increase in a few years?
But when I looked at their financials, their wages and salary went up 3,400, but their overall total administration expenses dropped. So, and it dropped by 9,000. So, also so it kind of depends on how you look at it, 8,000 that went down. So I would ask that question if someone from the library was here. Do you see what I'm looking at?
Right.
So if you look at the administrative expenses, so this was in the budget,
Right,
and so their wages and salaries in the budget were 66 and they spent 63. And the total salaries in FICA, the budget was for 72. Oh, I see, so they were over, yeah. Okay,
Eat over budget.
I had that back, so they're over. All right, that's where it is, that's where. This is what
so is this actual?
this is the actual,
And that's what they budgeted,
this is what they budgeted,
right?
so this is their difference. Oh, so it's in the. I'm sorry, Richard, what else did you want to add?
Just thinking if, the wages and things are sort of, we all are aware that those have gone up across everywhere. So, on the surface, it seems to me not an unreasonable request.
Okay. David,
Good questions.
no questions? Good. Verify it?
Seems, it does seem reasonable.
Yeah. Good. Anything else anybody wants to add? All right, anything from the members of the audience? No? Okay, good. But keep in mind, we don't make decisions about amounts here. We simply discuss them. And it's a chance to ask questions if they're there. Well, next.
Are there any specific questions that you would have to the library that I can direct to them?
I didn't, no. The next one is the community center, and Sarah, do you have those documents
I
there?
do, I probably have more than you need, I don't know what happened. Some kind of technological.
Doesn't matter, but I do think we'll want a couple of minutes to take a look. So in the file, we were missing these documents, so. This is for the community center, and this was prepared by the council.
This was on behalf of the community center, and this is a reworking of our budget, just to make it a little clearer, that Grace was able to put together for us. But I think, I get Richard needs some.
Both of these documents are the same.
You should just have one, which is the 2026 budget.
Got
that we're having. And as you may recall, if I could just give a little background, is that all right? Or
Sure, yes.
So, last year, for years, Lynn, who's on the library board, and the library and the council and the hall all share a partnership. Lynn would take care of the books for both the library and partnership. And Lynn retired. And we needed to figure out kind of quickly, who was a financial entity who could take over the bookkeeping, the money.
Right.
And the partnership was not a legal entity, a financial entity. So the council said, we'll do it. We've got the tax ID, we'll do it. And so we took it on, and it was difficult. Because we had to hire a bookkeeper. It was kind of in the middle of the fiscal year. Lynn did it one way, our bookkeeper, who's new to nonprofit bookkeeping, tried to catch up. Her categories were a little different, so it was a very difficult year for us to translate and to connect these things. So what you have in front of you, I've got a ton of documents, because I really needed to figure out how it all fit together. So I created lots and lots of stuff that you probably don't need. But what we're finding with the community center is, this year was a little different for us as far as, costs. One cost of ours went down, which was cleaning. And that was due to a personal issue with the person who was not able to do it as regularly. But we found that, our snow plowing went up. Electricity always goes up in the winter because we run out of our solar credits. And what else was there? Disconnecting solar panels, means it's pay more electricity. And then there was also, insurance has been going up like crazy. So the partnership pays for the insurance on the building. Each entity pays for their contents and the board, insurance. So we definitely had some increased spending. One thing we didn't do in the last 2 years really was repairs on the building. The last big repair, besides the solar panels, there was siding done recently. But we didn't have anyone to do repairs for us and we had always budgeted for it. And so we've just put off those repairs and now finally we do have a maintenance person who's on call for us and that will quickly start spending down our repair budget because there's a lot of deferred maintenance on the building. So what you have before you is our request for 38,600 for the partnership to keep this building, the physical plant. Right.
Thank you. That is very helpful. So the property and liability insurance is for the entire structure. And then each organization has separate insurance for content. Okay. And is there any fundraising for the Sheboygan Island Community Center?
No.
Is there any profit or income?
No, just what the town gives us. Whatever the town gives us, we spend on keeping the building built.
Okay,
And one thing that does occur with the budgeting for this partnership is that we get 2 checks from the town and so sometimes our timing lags on paying our insurance because it's so expensive. So we have to borrow from our savings account to pay the insurance and then pay ourselves back once we get our stipend check. So it's a little murky
little
in
merger.
that respect.
Okay, and but there is some income with rental of the hall.
That's the hall. That's the hall.
Just the hall.
Which is, yeah.
Okay.
And what was the budget last year?
About 37,
How much?
37.
37.
It was 366.
We were 37, very change. Whatever's not covered by the stipend. At the end of the year, if we have had an expense that's not covered, we've used up all our money, which could very well happen with the year with unusual expenses.
Right.
That is divvied up between the 3 nonprofits. Based on square footage. So we could end up with. I have to say, Lynn's projections were so good that at the end of most years, if we had anything left over, $1,000, it would go into the capital fund.
The capital fund for each
The
organization,
capital fund for the partnership, for the entire
for the
complex.
tribe.
So that if we needed to put in a new furnace, which we don't because we bought one somewhat recently, that's what that would be for. We're gonna, I think our roof now is, when did Eric Weagle do the roof? 25, 30 years ago. So that's kind of, and at a major expense like that, we would probably seek grant money or recompense or whatever. That,
And our capital fund is a savings account in which each year we put in $1,500. And that was recommended by the select board several years ago. And so we've been building up that store, spending it, saving it,
Okay,
and so on for larger capital.
but we don't have any documentation of the capital fund or,
No, it's an asset for us. It's not a cost that We take it out of this money, 1,500 each year that we get from the town.
Right, so
Put it in
that,
that savings.
that would be good to have that, but somewhere as a line item.
Right,
Yeah, it should be, that's $20,000
okay.
for capital improvements.
So Vika, help me with this one too. When we're talking about the community center, we're talking about also known as the tri-board?
No.
This is just this building,
The community center is all three
all three.
entities in the physical structure, which is the community center.
So when the town,
I just want to take a minute. The
Yeah.
tri-board is just a term we use for once a year. We wanted to have a meeting that would include all the board members from the three organizations. And we would be able to explain where we've been and where we're going. It's just the name for a meeting. It doesn't exist as an entity.
great. So when the town pays this next year will be $8,000, where will that appear? When we pay for the use of this building,
The hall.
just the hall? It won't appear on any of this.
That each organization has their own finances.
Okay,
This is what you guys are looking at is for the maintenance of
The
the whole
building.
building and the grounds.
okay,
So what you're giving, or what we've asked for an increase in rent.
Yeah.
That just affects the hall.
And that, I would keep that kind of entirely separate
Very
from any of these
separate, right.
discussions, because that's us paying to use the space
Yeah.
like anybody else would, so I wouldn't
now I understand.
necessarily consider that. I think there was for several years, like the rec center. The town was contributing money to the rec center, but then the rec center was charging the school for the use of the rec center, which that discussion ended up changing. I think that's a little bit different, in my opinion, at least, than
Yeah.
us physically renting the space here.
Thank you. I just have one more question. This is, I've seen this in other as well. With your heat pumps, you're still using your furnace
The heat pump supplement, I mean, the furnace supplements,
supplements?
we didn't want to take the furnace out. Basically, it was
Right.
brand new. We were told with the heat pumps that you should have a backup.
Yep.
Another form of heat, so that's why we still have that. The council does not have a heat pump in their office because when they put the heat pumps in, each organization paid for their own.
Yeah.
And the council did not feel like we wanted to spend our money putting heat pump in that little tiny office.
Gotcha.
So we still have furnace.
Yeah.
For whatever it uses to heat our space.
And the
But that
furnace
sounds-
is backup for the
For the
entire
entire,
building, so,
yes,
and you have a generator, correct?
and we have a.
So-
which is a recent purchase, we have a generator that,
Could run the heat.
It
could
run
the
furnace.
it runs the whole building, every outlet works.
But it won't run the heat pumps, but it will run the furnace.
It'll run,
Probably.
I think it does run the heat pumps.
It won't,
It probably.
It probably will.
probably not.
Okay, well, it certainly runs the furnace.
Right, well, that's why you wanna have the furnace, keep the furnace, it's the same thing as Historical Society where. You can still heat the building with a relatively small amount of generation, heat, energy generation, but the heat
Public
pumps are
safety
just,
buildings the same exact way.
Our houses.
yeah, ours too.
Good call. All right,
My house just has the heat pumps.
okay,
Okay, so that. For the sake of. The partnership community center, which is not a nonprofit. The council is taking responsibility for sort of overseeing the budget,
The fiscal agent for the stipend.
right?
okay. Makes sense. Right. Richard, David, do you have any questions?
Nope, seems clear to me.
Okay,
Can I make one suggestion, and this is maybe for a future budget process that the board consider having the MOU, but maybe because it seems this question comes up annually, and so maybe one thing that you could ask of this building is a very brief, like one page, no more than one page summary of the breakdown of what those relationships looks like. So then when you get the budget information, you have that information in front of you. So then that helps you kind of articulate how all those relationships work. So then you're not trying to ask those questions and understand that information
Yeah.
while also looking at the budget
We
numbers.
asked that question last.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, it came up last year. It's
Yeah,
Up again
it's
this year.
every year it comes
It'll come
up,
up next
so
year.
that might be a good thing to ask next year.
Yeah,
So because this is not a 501c3, that would be why there's no mission statement for the organization,
Yeah, the mission statement is just to maintain this building.
to maintain the building. Okay,
And keep it insured.
I think we all each have our own.
Each
Yes.
organization has their mission statements, okay, good.
It might help you to think of the partnership committee as an advisory committee. It doesn't exist as an entity, it's not a nonprofit, it's an advisory committee to the fiscal agent of the site.
Gotcha. Thank you, Deb. Anything else? Great. Oh,
I would just say to help it, because I know it's very reason, to think of the partnership as simply the physical asset, that's it. The
keeping an eye on the physical asset,
Yes, that's all it is.
good. Which is a big responsibility, I'll just say. All right. Move on to the next. I'm sorry, my computer is just very slow.
I do have to just say this because it's my soapbox, but I think that you should realize that for the, I don't know, $40,000 a year or whatever it is that we're asking for. If you also contribute, if you consider the in-kind contribution from the volunteers that keep this building complex running, it's probably greater than $40,000. In the amount of hours that we spend. Every organization has a responsibility for some aspect of the building. The council's responsibility, one of them is the generator, we're responsible for the plowing. The hall's responsible for the septic tank when they have to make sure that it gets pumped out. Sam McLean's over here digging out the opening for the guy to pump out the septic. All of the things that make this building run are done by volunteers.
Deb,
that's,
it is enormous when looking at all of these nonprofits, the sheer volume of labor, which we nicely call in kind, but it is an enormous responsibility borne on the backs of people who volunteer their time and people who do it because of their strong commitment. And it often makes it look easy because people walk in and things are in good shape. And it takes a lot to appreciate the amount of work it takes to keep that going. So big thank you to the people who have done that for this beloved building. Thank you for mentioning that.
You're welcome.
All right. Next, we're going to talk about the council. And I just want to get to the MOU first. And one of my questions, Sarah, about the council is the mission statement. Is that what's in your 501c3 document?
Yes, and it's
Okay.
also part of our bylaws,
And your bylaws? Okay, great.
which we just updated this year
You
to
did?
be current.
Okay.
Big deal, yeah.
Okay.
I had a
You have some questions?
So I printout funding requests, my printout was 7,000, but that's not correct.
Yeah, I think I resubmitted that after the fact, to ask for 9,000 and if I can just
Oh,
explain. We do the fuel fund. The town helps us with the fuel. And that we spend anywhere between $10,000 and $16,000 a year. I think we're budgeted for the fuel fund for 15,000. We also have this American fund that helps with medical equipment or ramps and things like that. And that's where the town helps us, and does not have to provide general assistance to the public and the administration of that. We also do, as our mission and our bylaws state, we do a number of other services for the town, which are supported solely by donations. So we're really a donator funded nonprofit. We do very little fundraising, but people are very generous to us. We also have income from Schoolhouse Seconds, something soup lunch, it's mostly wash. And we pay quite a bit of money to put out that calendar each month. We get not very much back in ads. It's a cost that's every year goes up, and we're forecasting $13,000 this year for the calendar. So, but when we come to the town, we usually ask for 7,000. We had some nice donations last year, so we put that down to 5,000. This year, as you can imagine, with the winter we've had and the issues with federal funding of different heating assistance programs, we've really had to bump up our help for neighbors. And so we wanted to go back to the 7,000 that we usually would get from the town. We've also had to hire a bookkeeper, because our bookkeeper, who's done it for years and years, has said enough. And so we're trying to upgrade and update what we do with bookkeeping and accounting, and we figure that would be at least $2,000 for the year.
And some of that's including managing this building.
No, it's not.
Just
That bookkeeping is not the bookkeeping for this.
I think it's important to make a distinction that the money that we ask for, is not to fund council programming. It has nothing to do with the calendar or the 4th of July or the Meals on Wheels or any of the other things we fund. It is a very specific, we are asking the town to contribute towards the cost of the fuel fund, which, unlike the library, the rec center, the daycare, other nonprofits that come for money, it is the town's statutory obligation to provide assistance for what they call the poor. And that is a statutory defined term, financial assistance for poverty, income. Those are all part of the statute. So what we do is most of the general assistance in this community is provided by the council and the church. So when you look at what's considered basic needs and is the town's legal obligation to provide for poor people, those are being met by the council and the church. And so the money that we asked for, the $9,000, has nothing to do with council's programs, the flu clinic, anything. That is a portion, possibly as much as half of the cost of the fuel fund. What we provide for the town that meets the town's obligation for general assistance far exceeds the $9,000. But the fuel assistance is the most definable source, so that every penny that the town gives us for fuel assistance, we can show that that was spent on fuel. It wasn't spent on anything else. So we have relieved the town the burden of general assistance.
That's not, I want to correct you because that's not true. The town is still legally obligated
Oh, yes,
to
yeah.
provide general assistance.
Right, and you put
The big-
$2,000.
The big difference is the general assistance program through the state of Maine is extremely cumbersome and difficult. But I've still got applications, so with the town giving money to the council does not mean that we're still not legally obligated to do that. We still are. The difference is the town giving money to the council allows members in the community to access that money at a far easier way than they would otherwise. But if we get an application through the town office for general assistance, I'm still obligated legally to go through that process. It's just extremely difficult and people have to provide a lot of cumbersome information. And in the time that I've been the town administrator, people have withdrawn those applications because they don't want to provide every nitty gritty detail of their incomes, and very often they wouldn't be applicable. So the few people I've had apply, they have assets and they have other things that take into consideration, which would limit them or make it difficult for them to apply for it. And I think that's why, in my understanding, the town does this, because it does allow the people who might not necessarily be able to apply to have access to that funding. So I think it's a better way to be able to serve the community, that most people probably otherwise wouldn't be able to. I would assume that a lot of people that you provide that assistance to would not qualify through the state general assistance funding.
I don't know, because we don't ask for that kind of information.
And that's, we have to, I mean, the amount of information that the general assistance program requires people to submit is absurd. And the few people I've had interested in it, they get turned away because they don't want to provide all that information. And so they probably go to the council where it's kind of no questions asked, allowing
It's a
people to
low
be able
barrier.
to. Yeah, but it is, I just wanna make sure, it's, the town is still legally obligated to do that, so that does not change that. The other question I have is, so the information that you submitted to me, the documents that I have, I had 2 of them that said 7,000, so if you guys are requesting 9,000, can we have that MOU submitted, because the MOU,
Yeah, I don't know, yeah.
we don't have the 7, and that's what I have. Is 7, so if it's 9, then it would be great to have that.
I guess point I want to make is the council is not obligated to provide any fuel assistance. And we could do what many towns do, which is first you have to apply for any federal and state programs that you would be eligible for. And then when you get denied, you apply for the next program and the next program until you find a program that you might qualify for. And this community has decided that they did not want to go down that path, that we want as low a barrier as we can. And $9,000, as I said, does not. I don't know. See, we're on a different fiscal year than the town, but how many? We've had 12, 13 families this year. I think last year we had 17 families. And we're not done. We're still getting requests, so the fuel is under the things that fall under general assistance that would qualify under basic needs are more than fuel assistance, as you probably may be familiar with the statute. It's a lot of things, most of which are provided for, and the town is not asked to contribute to those. A perfect example would be food. We have a barrier-free food pantry in this community. Anybody can go to the church and get food. That's an example of the kind of thing that in another community, you might have to have applied for general assistance to get help with. So the fuel assistance is only a portion of the things that would be covered under general assistance. And I guess my feeling is that if the town felt that they could administer a general assistance program for the town of Shabik for $9,000 or less, then they would have a fiscal responsibility to the taxpayers to do that.
Thank you, Deb. When I'm looking at the fuel assistance fund, it looks like the expenses were 13,608.
I think that's gone up since.
Okay. But this is as of February 3rd, 2026. And what is covered by the Samaritan Fund other?
We do, you can probably help with this, Deb, but we do,
Everything else that we do, that's not the flu clinic, the Meals on Wheels, the support for Shabik Islanders can get Shabik Cares at a reduced rate. And we make up the difference for the commons.
We do emergency buttons.
We do the emergency response systems, which are not inexpensive.
Right.
We do
So
the transportation, we run a wellness center, we just got a new centrifuge, I would say probably everything that falls under basic needs, except that we don't pay for burials and we haven't paid for people's rent. But other than that, the definition of basic needs under the state statute, we've covered just about everything. If you need your driveway plowed in order to get your fuel delivery and you can't afford it, we plow your driveway.
Okay. This is very helpful
And
to get.
those are the kind of assistance that would likely not qualify, probably a lot of the people that are coming to you. If this program didn't exist through the Island Council, I would put money on it that the town wouldn't spend $9,000, because I don't think most people that are probably coming to you would qualify through the state general assistance for those programs due to the intensity and the level of information that is required out of it.
And we haven't required that as a prerequisite for getting fuel assistance from the council. And the church doesn't require that as a prerequisite for getting food from the food pantry. We have kept a very low barrier because that's what this community wants.
Has the council ever felt like there have been folks who have abused it, who you thought had the means that just?
What we did,
Works.
in last year was we updated our fuel policy because we were concerned about that. So now there's a low barrier to get in the first fill. If you need more than that, you have to show that you've applied for LIHEAP and we get the paperwork. And we request the same type of paperwork that you would need to submit for LIHEAP and also document what's going on so we can get a better feel. So we've tightened that up considerably. But truly our requests have not reduced because of it. I think that there was one year that was particularly expensive.
So if someone applies for LIHEAP, are people able to get that here on the island?
Yes,
So if they're getting LIHEAP, they are not in need of the fuel assistance?
no, LIHEAP gave a one-time payment of $500.
Right.
That was the
Okay.
maximum that you would get from LIHEAP.
Yeah.
And what we ask is, and maybe you guys just don't know how the program works. Anybody on Shebeka Island that needs help with fuel can call the council, any kind of fuel, electric, wood, oil, K1, you name it. We pay for $1,000, no questions asked, get $1,000 worth of fuel assistance. If it be after that $1,000, and that was a number, we didn't just make that up. We looked at energy, main energy efficiency, and we met with Paul, who has a pretty good idea of what. And the average cost for a heating season in Maine was $2,000. We figured maybe about $2,500 on the island. So we pay for the first $1,000, no questions asked, which should be about half your heating cost for the year. If you need more than that, it's a one-page form that you fill out that says you've applied for LIHEAP and within the last 3, 6, or 9 months, your income guideline has met that. And you check the box, it's an honor system, and we have not had any abuse.
Now, what is that program, a LIHEAP?
For LIHEAP, yeah.
It's a federal program for fuel assistance, low
Oh, hell.
income
Heating
heating.
program. No, it's been going for a long time, but I know they have a cap.
Yeah,
That's right, I
and
forgot
they
to
pay
look at.
$500 and because there were no providers on the island that wanted to sign up to be a provider under the LIHEAP program. Actually, Shebeka and some of the other islands, LIHEAP gives the money directly to the individual. We don't, we.
Oh,
only pay-
because there's no LIHEAP delivery.
Right,
There's
so,
no fuel truck that delivers fuel paid for by LIHEAP.
correct.
So they get a check to
So they get the money to, and it's,
Okay.
we only pay a vendor, we only pay the vendor. We don't
Gotcha.
pay individuals.
And,
So-
you know, 500 doesn't go as far here.
No, so
Because
if
it does
you
on the-
get, everybody gets $1,000 to begin with, and after that, if you need more, it's available. And you just have to fill out that.
But they indicate that they applied for the LIHEAP
Yes,
prior to asking for a subsequent.
for the subsequent, yes.
Right. So, you know, obviously I'm new to the board this year and finally get my feet under me, so, I was just looking at this, so one of the things that I was wondering, this is the profit and loss statement from February 2025 to February 2026. I didn't see on the income side, the town stipend.
I don't know, we. Couple of late night texts, Lola, who's our treasurer, is in Gorham. And she can't be here today. And I don't know, I can tell you, you may be able to look in your records and see when those check, it would have been 2,500 and 2,500. And I don't know if we got both checks, sometimes we don't get the second check until like April.
Okay.
So we may have only gotten the first payment. I can't tell you.
Right, I just don't see a light on, so that should get corrected.
There may be 2,500 that's not on there. The second payment we haven't gotten yet.
Right,
But the
Yeah,
first,
we go around our fiscal year, which is July to June, and typically for the nonprofits. Most of the payments are split into 2 payments, and they're often like a spring, a fall and a spring. So once July 1st hit, then a couple of months, because what we do too is, you know, the town commits to taxes, but then the physical money doesn't start coming into us until we start collecting money for taxes, which is why we stagger a lot of these really large payments. And you know, sometimes we'll have warrants that are $400,000 or $500,000. You physically need money in the bank for that, and so we stagger payments to nonprofits, to, you know, Cumberland, to Yarmouth, to schools, all things like that around the tax collection season. So September and March is when our tax bills are due. So we typically do, you know, a fall and a spring payment. So then we can ensure that we are having large sums of money coming in, when we have large sums of money coming out.
all right, so I guess my point is, can we expect an updated version of this? That would reflect that, whatever contribution's been made
We
within this
won't
period.
get that up until April, but when we get it, we'll update it.
and what is your fiscal year?
Our fiscal year is March 1st to February 28th.
And then my other question was just.
But one of them is not, so so one of the contributions from the town should be in here.
Right,
Okay.
right, just so
I
I,
mean, I would think you would put both of them in there because you're 100% expecting to receive that money, so.
I don't know how
I would-
QuickBooks work, and I don't know, and Lola has really struggled because she does not know how to use the online QuickBooks and doesn't intend to learn. And the old system is no longer supported, so it's been a huge struggle.
right. Okay, well, I'm sure you'll get that worked out.
You know, but for the $2,500 that may be missing in there, that she put in the wrong column, I don't know.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. And then the other part of the question I just had was trying to. Understand, so it shows the net income here of. Without the 5,000 of 11,000 and some change. So that's a positive, so it's a positive net income.
It doesn't matter what our net income is, because we do a huge variety of programs. The only thing we're asking the town for
Right.
is a portion of fuel funds.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to understand,
So that may be our net income, absolutely. It could very well be, it could be more than that.
right, but so. Generally speaking, like with the nonprofits, if you're generating income, then that's being used to support the various programs and such.
Right, but we have no obligation to spend that on fuel.
Understood. I'm just trying to understand where,
Right, we. That could be money that you set aside for the 4th of July. I can't tell you.
yeah, but wouldn't that be reflected in the? On year to year, wouldn't that be reflected in your expenses?
This year for the 250th, we're planning on having a big fireworks display. So, I mean, what we do, I guess, with our income has no bearing on our fuel funding.
But I think that's slightly inaccurate because if you think about it, the town is making a contribution to a nonprofit. Yes, you're gonna put it towards fuel assistance, but if that number continues to increase, the town very well likely could say, okay, we're gonna stop doing that and people can come through us for the general assistance. And then that might be significantly less because the requirements are heavier. And so it is less of that don't ask, don't tell policy. So the town may be spending a lot less because people might not qualify. So I understand where you're coming from, that other areas, it's not related to the fuel income, but I think with Earhart's point, if the town is being asked to contribute to a nonprofit, I think the town has a right to ask questions about all the different items to have a best understanding of how all the money within the nonprofit is being spent, because it is taxpayers' funds that are going towards the nonprofit.
And I totally
So-
agree, and if the town thinks that they can do general assistance for $9,000 or less, they should. They would have a responsibility to do that, and the council may decide that we're gonna use that as a first step to accessing the council's funds. Is that first you apply for general assistance, then you apply for LIHEAP, then you come to the council. That's very common and would be a very responsible thing for us to do. It is not what we have. It is not what this small community, the tone that this small community has wanted, but it doesn't mean that that's not a
Sure.
reasonable choice.
But I'm just saying, as a board member representing the town, trying to manage. Taxpayers' contributions to the town, when we're looking at supporting nonprofit, this is true of all the nonprofits, so it's not, I'm not pointing out yours in particular. That if we see nonprofits actually. Having a very positive cash flow. And that those nonprofits are coming down asking for more money. I think it's incumbent upon us as a fiduciary responsibility to ask, well, if you have this kind of positive cash flow, why are you coming to the town to supplement your budget when the town is facing some very big financial challenges? And
Absolutely.
so that's kind of where the question's coming from, and it's gonna be a question we'll ask of all the the nonprofits that we support. So to me, I'm just saying, let's just say you. Basically, this $11,000 plus the $5,000 that's not actually in the line item, that's $16,000 of positive cash flow. But you may very well have a capital need, you may have purposes, right?
Yes.
But what I'm saying, if you're coming to the town. Then I think those, and any nonprofit should do this, should be communicating what those funds are intended for. Because, otherwise, as a town representative, I would say. Could you reallocate some of your positive cash flow to cover that contribution the town would have made? So the town has more money to handle all of the budgetary issues that we're facing.
So you would ask the town, so you would think that the council should use, as a private charitable foundation, should use their money to pay for what is the town's responsibility.
No, what I'm saying
It
is
still
that,
is the town's responsibility. It still is.
So,
The money that's
maybe-
going to the council does not mean that the average person cannot walk to the town office right now.
Absolutely.
The responsibility is still there. The difference is that this allows residents of Shabik to access that money at a far easier way than otherwise would.
And that's the council's choice. But as I said, maybe it would be better fiscal sense for the town to have everyone go through general assistance first. And you can determine whether or not that's cost effective for the taxpayer. I don't know how
I don't think.
much time it takes for general assistance, but you could apply for general assistance, get denied, apply for LIHEAP, get denied, and then you could come to the council and ask for assistance.
It,
I don't think
it's,
we're asking.
it seems to me this is,
We're just talking ideas and how the money flows, and if you have plenty of money and you don't need $7,000, great. If you still need it to run all your programs, okay, but that's all I think you're asking.
Right,
Line
I'm
item.
just saying, we're trying to do
Where
the
the money
same
goes.
process.
I guess
It's not saying that you shouldn't do
it's
it.
a unique situation because we're
Yeah.
we're administering basically the town's general assistance program. And so that people don't apply for it and don't have to meet the statutory requirements. It exceeds what general assistance would be under the statute, and that's what the community has wanted. But if the town doesn't feel like that's the best use of the taxpayers' money, then they could reduce that and they could end up saying, well, nobody applied for general assistance this year. You're still
That's not
ultimately
what we're saying.
responsible.
we're not saying that. I wanna give you my personal opinion on something. I so often am concerned when people are in need of financial aid that they get blamed. They get blamed for being short of cash or not being able to pay a bill. And people who are able to pay their bills are so often feel judgmental about that. What I respect about the council is that it takes care of people quietly, with respect and with privacy. And I want to acknowledge that, and I want to say, I think it's very valuable.
Yeah.
And I'm moved by it. But I also, now I'm going to sit in my select person hat and say, holy smoke, we have some big expenses coming down, and I can't tell you how many times I've used the word adulting this week. Our town is moving from having been a child and a teenager. We're 19 years old, we're adulting now, and we have major infrastructure projects coming, and we know this. So being able to have a good grasp of where do we need to spend and where do we need to save, especially with increases, is really incumbent upon us. And I feel like it's incumbent upon me for all people who are paying taxes in this town, because it will have an impact. And I also am gonna say, just as wonderful news, it looks like the town will be instituting offering a circuit breaker program for people paying their property taxes, similar to the one that is available from the state. There's the homestead, the veterans, there's a couple of other that not everybody takes advantage of because I think they don't know about it. So looking at balancing that. So Deb, I don't think that the whole conversation over how this service should be delivered, I don't think is appropriate here. And I'm not convinced that we need to have it because I think it's happening. People are being taken care
They
of.
are being taken care of, and I guess the point I'm trying to make is that that is a huge effort. What the town gives us, every penny of that is spent on fuel. And the administration of that, from opening the book, the bill, making sure that the bill gets paid, sending that check, calling up when there's confusion. Here's an example of the kinds of things that we do that don't get covered in the budget. Saturday, late Saturday afternoon, you get a phone call, I'm out of fuel. I didn't realize that I'm out of fuel. I'm cold, my pipes are gonna freeze, oh my God, what should I do? Now, what the council did was, we have a relationship, we got the emergency fuel truck over there, we paid for it, we got the driveway plowed, and we got that all taken care of Saturday night. And I think that kind of volunteer effort is never gonna show up on the balance sheet. So when you ask for $9,000 in fuel assistance, that's what you're not seeing. And I guess that's my point, that I feel like you're not really valuing what we do. You're looking at the bottom line of what the fuel costs, but you're not thinking about all of the effort that it goes into making that money get distributed and getting help to those people in that way. And maybe I am not advocating for general assistance, but I think it feels almost disrespectful for the town to quibble with the council over $9,000 for fuel assistance when you get so much for that money.
Okay, can
So,
can I address this since I'm the one who brought up the question? So I think all of us town absolutely support what you do. I don't think by asking the questions for clarification, to understand is not questioning the mission, the purpose, the intent, or the effort the council's making in the community. It was an honest question, which I prefaced by saying, I'm new, I'm trying to understand. We're dealing with multiple nonprofits, we're requesting monies and facing major fiscal challenges for the town. And I think it's important that we be able to have open dialogues, which is the purpose of this meeting, to ask questions to gain understanding. So I totally hear you. You're saying basically the service that council is providing around this $9,000 is to administer a program that otherwise would be much more cumbersome in order to provide assistance for people who are otherwise not able to afford it. So I hear you loud and clear. And I hope you can hear that by asking the question, I'm not questioning or judging or demeaning or in any way I'm trying to undermine the value of what you all do and the volunteerism that we somewhat see and probably a whole lot don't see. So I just want to be clear so we don't have any misunderstandings as a result of this conversation. But, you know, I'm saying we are going to ask those kinds of questions to gain understanding as a board of any nonprofit and any organization is asking for funding. And that was the purpose of the question.
And I hope next year our bookkeeping will be a little bit tidier so that we can begin to show on paper all of the things that we spend money for that are for to meet the basic needs of the residents of.
That'd be great.
Grace?
It's uncommunicated, right, messaging that you're saying is. You're simply asking from that 16,000 if the council would be willing to absorb some of that 16,000 towards the fuel assistance. Is that, I think that's what.
No.
No,
No,
We do,
It's just
already. They
hypothetical.
only give us 5.
no, what I'm saying is,
No,
because there's a positive of 16,000, that 9,000 that's being requested for the fuel assistance, I don't think they're saying, don't spend that 9,000. But could you possibly reallocate some of that 16 towards the 9,000 so that you can still provide that 9,000 to the community? I think that's what you're saying.
No, but we're already paying way more than 9,000, so we're already using, the town is only paying about 50% of the fuel assistance requests. We're already spending, quote, our money for fuel assistance for people. The $9,000 is only a portion, about half of what we spend on fuel. So we're not sitting there saying, we have $11,000 in our bank account and we're gonna make the taxpayer. We're already paying about half of it. So
Maybe that's what needs to be clarified in the request from the council.
it should.
It's not just 9,000, it's whatever it is, 15,000.
but it's.
How would you-
not
That's what
according to.
the-
Well, it's 15,000 and we're asking for 9.
Well, you
Right.
spent 13,000 last year according to this.
That's not accurate.
Well, and received 2,500 in contributions specifically for the fuel.
I'm sorry, but I know that that's inaccurate and I'm sorry that Lola's not here, but last year,
Okay.
if you remember.
But I think
17
that
people.
kind of leads to the point of the town asked for information and we received the information and the select board has reviewed the information and that's the information that they're going off of. And so if you're sitting and
It's not
saying
correct.
it's inaccurate, that doesn't make the decision any easier for the select board to not ask those
Totally
questions.
apologize for our bookkeeping inadequacy. We've been doing the best we can. But I would be happy to provide you with more current information of how much money we've spent on fuel from March first of 25 to February 28th of 26.
Good.
And I know that
So the select board has a budget meeting, that's supposed to be third review on the 25th. If we can receive any supporting documents from you prior to that, so we can incorporate that. Because the ask is going from 5 to 9. We don't have the updated MOU with that $9,000 request, and then if the profit and loss is in fact significantly different from what's being provided, it would be really helpful to have that information.
absolutely.
Maybe the week before, so we can incorporate that in the budget numbers and have that information to the select board. So then when they're discussing on the 25th, the entirety of the entire budget, and there is going to be nearly double the request of what has been prior year,
Yep.
that the information is in front of them and they're able to articulate it without the level of confusion that seems to be happening at the moment.
That's very
I-
helpful.
And we should be able to do that, but in answer to your response to your thing, whether it's 13 and you gave us 5 and we spent 13, then we spent 7 of our own. And when I say our own money, it's not like that comes, we have no paid staff. This is all, every penny the council takes in goes out.
All vote.
The-
Yes, we understand that. And I would also like to add, Deb, by asking these pointed questions, which I think are important for us to understand where this is all going and to put it on the public record. It got information that is really helpful for making a decision, like those details about how you handle it when people do run out. Like, those are the stories that justify these funds. And so while it feels like we're questioning the validity of this, in fact, in part, it gives good support for what you're doing by asking these difficult questions. I am going to add, if this is going to be resubmitted with some adjusted figures, if some of these figures are inaccurate, that would be very helpful for us, plus to justify things. But in the request, provide a short description of the impact these funds will have on the community. It doesn't specifically say these funds will be used for fuel assistance and this is how much we received and spent. So if in fact it says it's for all sorts of the wide variety of things, the deep variety of things that are provided by the council, perhaps if this is targeted for fuel, it would be helpful to have that as the statement for why we want these funds, because I wasn't aware of that.
Either.
I thought that's what it said in the MOU. That's what it said in the old MOU. It said Fuel, Samaritan Fund, and Cindy's Fund. And I've been trying to get them to drop the Cindy's Fund out of the MOU.
Well, the MOU that was submitted for this year, what is, I think, an improvement is every nonprofit was given the same blank
I
form.
helped fill it out, but I can
Right.
tell you historically, it was very clear that it was for fuels. The
Okay,
Samaritan Fund, these are invented things, my son. So they had a fund and they called it the Samaritan Fund. This was never a town thing. This was invented by a person. And within that, there was a column that was supposed to provide fuel assistance. There was a column that would provide medical assistance, and there was a column that would provide other assistance, food, medicine, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So over time, and because of the way it got set up in QuickBooks, we keep talking about this fuel fund. And actually, we can set it up and call it whatever we want. But if you hear the term Samaritan Fund, it's very confusing to us, and it's our program.
okay.
I think the thing that I really take, and I appreciate our conversation was that basically saying that the town has an obligation to support low income, and let's just say fuel issues. okay? And that on behalf of the town, your organization provides easier access and thus helps meet that responsibility of the town to its community in a much easier, much more accessible way. And some portion of those monies are provided by the town to your organization who administers that program. And then in addition to that, through your nonprofit, you supplement, or we supplement you, you supplement us, however you want to look at it, to make sure that people have the fuel and the services they need. So that, I'm just saying, my take home from our conversation, and understand it, you know, maybe it wasn't as easy as it could have been. That is a take home. So if somebody gets me on the boat and says, why are they getting this? I have a much better understanding as a result of our conversation and asking difficult questions to get clarity. And to the degree we can incorporate that clarity into the text and the descriptors of what you all are doing, along with the financial piece of that, that's great. Then that makes our job and your job a whole lot easier.
And just because the town's obligation, statutory obligation to
Yeah.
provide basic
We got that.
services for
Yeah.
poor people
Yeah.
includes more than fuel.
Yeah, we got
The
that.
only thing we ask for is fuel assistance.
Right.
All those other basic needs that should be covered for poor people, which is their legal term. The council provides and we don't ask for any money.
Got it. I got it.
So I'm gonna move ahead because we still have three more nonprofits to go through. And I think this in some ways is a bigger conversation. So just to be clear, we'll be getting an updated and accurate, more accurate reflection of that. And the request will be updated to specify if it is specific that this request is just for fuel assistance, then that would be what is in the MOU. Even though what the council provides to the whole community is much more, but if the request for this funding is specifically that, I think that should be available in that public document.
And then if we can get that information by no later than the end of day on the 19th, if we can ensure that that's in the board's packet with the updated information for their next budget discussion.
Good.
And
Okay.
I would ask that when you do the warrant, you always include the nonprofits in that box. And it says Shabik Island Council and then whatever it is, $5,000 or something. It looks like we're asking the town to give, pick your number, $5,000 to the council's overall
Right.
mission. And it really needs to be spelled out that we are only asking the town to contribute to fuel assistance.
Got
Okay.
it. Yep.
Because you have one.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, right now, what you're saying in your description as to what this funding would be for is it says Shabik Island Council provides assistance and funding for social services such as fuel assistance, end-of-life needs, emergency response systems, healthcare, and support for in-home services. So as I read that, I'm seeing that you're requesting from 5 to 7 on this document, and that money is going for all of this.
And that's,
And I think that's how,
We
on
need,
the warrant, we would put Shabik Island Council because of the information you provided us.
absolutely,
Okay.
we need to clarify that our request is only for fuel assistance for a certain amount. And it's not,
Okay, we agreed that we would do
Yeah.
that. Yeah, we agreed. Okay. Richard,
Sounds good.
good. David,
Perfect.
Vika? Okay, any other comments from the community? Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Next is looking at the Shabik Rec Center. This is our big ticket item. The rec center is looking for, am I correct, flat funding?
No,
Nope.
so they're saying they're looking for flat funding, and, if you look at their request last year, they asked for 69,500. This year, they're asking for 64,500. They put in the MOU that it's flat, but I did confirm, and they asked for more last year.
Okay,
No. Well, they asked for more last year,
It's nice.
so it's a little less this year.
It's less this year, yeah. It's down by a couple $1,000s, and I don't know whether that's an oversight on their part or a mistake, but
Okay,
Okay, and this is the rec center side, the rec,
Correct.
just trying to get, so like these organizations have all these pieces. Got it.
Why are
Okay.
these people here? I can say why the president is not here.
so that was the other thing is with these MOUs, the idea was to not have lengthy presentations and discussions. My recollection, when the select board created this MOU and asked for the information to be submitted well in advance, you have had all this information for well over a month. And in the preliminary discussion, the point of doing that is so you have the information ahead of time. You go through it ahead of time. If you raise any questions, it gives us the time and opportunity to ask them those questions prior to this meeting, preventing, I think, a lot of what just happened.
well, this was different information than what was presented in their
Right,
And
application, so that wouldn't have come to light if they had not been present and we had asked those questions. And I do think it will be cleared up. And we would have a chance to ask more questions if we need them after that
I think the
information.
really
is-
purpose, goal is to really put more responsibility on
Right.
these nonprofits
Right.
to do their homework ahead of time, because historically, they would just give you a dollar number and provide whatever documents they felt was
Yeah.
appropriate. And so the town is streamlining it to, if you're gonna come to the town, this is what the town is requiring out of you. And it's really up to the nonprofits to make sure they provide the accurate information. And so I think it's just,
well, it's good because this is really a learning process, I mean, this is the first time we've done it.
yeah,
And they're saying, oh, they're really serious about this, my stuff has to be in order so that we can just be expeditious and
Mhm.
move
Yeah.
forward, or, you know, have only really cogent questions.
yeah, in the few years that I've done this, my kind of, not perspective, but my, look, kind of observing, my observation has been that there has been a lot of expectation from my experience that when these nonprofits come to the town, they're gonna receive the money with very little questions asked. And I think because of all these other things that are coming in front of the town, the board is doing a good job raising all the questions, recognizing that every dollar is an important part towards what those increases could look like. And I think it's really taking some of these nonprofits by a surprise, because it's a level of conversation that has not been expected from him up until, the last couple of years.
I will say that having this single document is very helpful. And when I look at being in on these conversations 2 years ago as a first year select board member, this is a big jump forward, and I can tell you things I'd like to improve in making sure that all of the boxes are ticked when those documents are turned in. And I don't know what we need to do to ensure that they're accurate, because asking questions and being told, oh, that's not right is very concerning, because we're going to rely on this information. So this application from the rec center is an enormous improvement from what we've seen in the past. And was able to track things that are going on and have a better grasp of really what they're grappling with to deliver the amount of services and the amount of services provided to the community is, as with all of the nonprofits, enormous, but they take, this is the big one. Anyway, and I'm also gonna, excuse me, Vika, in the document that we have, it was to provide a short description of the impact these funds will have on the community. And our copy didn't print all of those. And it didn't print the 3 to 5 deliverables, so I feel like I have enough grasp of the rec center to understand what they're delivering, but our form doesn't
Doesn't
give
expand.
all of those.
If you looked at it in the folder, when you're looking at them, you should be able to expand it and read them, but that's, I think, an area of.
But I'm looking at it
Yeah, there's some,
I'm looking at it in the folder and it doesn't allow me to expand.
and there's some formatting issues with some of them where there's a single page is split across multiple pages in the
Yeah.
Excel spreadsheet, which is really hard to read.
Well, that's what they did for the kids' place, I think, to separate it out. Maybe we're talking a different.
Yeah, no, literally, it's just if it was landscape, it would have shown the whole page.
Oh,
But so you have 4 pages, and then you have another 4 pages with the part that's off to the right. So I think we have some technical things we can work.
but nice improvement from where it was in the past. Okay, so they're asking for 64.5. We're looking at what they say that they're delivering for that. I think the audits have come a long way with the rec center, and that was, again, an enormous lift, and this is the process of adulting.
Yeah.
We are looking at nonprofits who are doing audits and following I know it's new for the council, but following the guidelines for accounting for nonprofits, which is an enormous hurdle. And it looks like the rec center has done a good job of being able to do that and able to provide us numbers for 2 years running that are based on accurate audits. And I hope that, I really just want to recognize the rec center for that amount of work. And there we go. All right. Anybody want to say anything about the rec center request? Richard?
Seems reasonable to me, especially in light of the fact that they also provide services back to the town for the after-school programs. That's an essential part of.
Right, although that's paid for staffing wise by the school, I believe. So they provide the facility, but I think the staffing of that is in the school. It was with the rec center. And
I
that
think
was,
it's split is my
Is it split?
understanding. So there is, one of the, and this is, I'm speaking as a parent, have been utilized this and the kind of observation I've made and the questions that I've asked, there is an every day, Monday through Thursday, with the exception of when ski program has been taking place, then it was Tuesday through Thursday. 2 days a week, Bill is with the kids from 3 to 4:30, and then 2 days a week, Penny, who is the school teacher. So my understanding is there is an agreement between the school and the rec center that after school program that they provide to the students is split between the school and the rec center evenly, and
okay,
any kid can go and just hang out there.
but I never saw that in a separate expense. So it must be a part of the staff time that covers that, where
That would
it
be
is,
my understanding.
it is a separate line for the school budget. Can I just say, being able to provide that after-school time, I think is a real asset for our community and our families. Especially when all of our families have working parents, and looking at that after-school time being structured and supervised and engaging for kids and at no cost. I think that is such an asset for our community. Anyway, thank you to the rec center and the school for that. What else? You know what else I can add? That the visits per day have increased by a ridiculous amount at the rec center as well. So when we're looking at usage,
Pickleballers.
let's just say pickleballers. But I think it's pickleballers, it's people using the fitness room as encouraged by our on-island physical therapist who whips everybody into shape. I think it's the school program, and I see lots of people coming and going out of that building that don't even sign the paper. So it's nice to see that the rec center is heavily used compared to where it was in the past. And I think if we did per capita number of people that live on the island and visits per week or per month at the rec center, it would be good. Also, I've seen they've made a nice improvement in being inclusive. It's really affordable to become a member of the rec as well. So I think they've done a good job of offering a generous price for individuals and families to be members of the rec center. So that's built into, and they're not making money on the memberships. I'll just say that.
I think the select board should get a little credit for that because there's been a big push the last 2 to 3 years from the select board to provide more thorough information from the rec center, but then also to provide some of the services that for a few years didn't exist. There was post-COVID up until last year, there were no after-school programs for children, with the exception of summer. So I think the select board asking the really difficult questions and pushing for that clarification does have a contributing factor towards that information being provided. And I think it's just, it's a good example of a nonprofit asking for money and then hard questions being raised and then providing that information that ultimately leads to an improvement of that nonprofit as a whole in terms of how they operate, but then also the board receiving some of the information. So I think that's, you know, a collective effort on both organizations.
And a justification for our endorsement, you know, which is what we really owe to the taxpayers.
Yeah,
But there has been after school for 4 or 5 years. At the rec center, between the rec center and the school.
for post-COVID, the school was providing the,
Then it went to 2 days a week and do 2 and 2, so, yeah, okay. Questions? Questions or any final comments, Mika? Come on. Next is the kids' place, am I correct?
correct. And I do have, so their mission statement and then their sentences are also cut out. I do have it open here if you would like me to read what the full description of that was.
I actually would like that, thank you.
So the mission statement, we have to provide Big Island community with recreational and educational opportunities that strengthen overall health and social connection to enhance lives and secure futures. And then the 2 to 3 sentences is town funding enables Kids Place to provide reliable licensed early childhood care that supports working families and workforce stability on Shebig. By operating this essential service independently, Kids Place reduces the need for the town to develop, staff, and manage all municipal child care programs. This partnership preserves access to affordable child care while ensuring long-term sustainability of a critical community service. And then the deliverables is 1, provide consistent license year-round early childhood care and education that supports Shebig families and enables parents and guardians to participate in local workforce. Deliver developmentally appropriate play-based childhood programming that supports social emotional development, early literacy, and kindergarten readiness. Contribute to the long-term sustainability of the Shebig community by helping families remain on the island during their children's early years.
Excellent. Okay, and their request is for 30,000. That's the same as last year. I know that there are other island communities that contribute to their licensed childcare centers. Ours has very low numbers. Some of those have waiting lists, but just because we have low numbers, it actually points to the need to maintain this service for our island. I know they've looked at, could they take kids from the mainland? And I think they would, but that's not an option for families to send their young children over. And we have a really solid level of care in our kids' place. So it looks to me like they're delivering what they say they are. And their mission statement is being fulfilled.
They do work with the school too, so right
Yeah.
now, the few littles that they have, they do go to the school one day a week and spend some time within the school. So then it's preparing those little kids into the incorporation of what that atmosphere is gonna look like. So the school and Kids Place have started working together, a lot closer. And personally, as a parent, so I put both my kids through it, 13 years. The improvements of my youngest being in it is significant. When my oldest was in daycare, it was open less hours, but only available 4 days a week. So as a full-time working parents, it was really difficult to have childcare without the availability. And then with, once again, I think with the questions being raised and the need being expanded, they've now been able to have accessible, consistent childcare that is Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 4:30, which is really a lot more in line to working parents. So I, as a parent personally, have seen a lot of improvements in how they've operated and the services they've provided.
And it accommodates parents working from the mainland. So,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah, and just to reiterate sort of what you said is that we are seeing low numbers now, but I think it's important to keep the funding going. If it continues to be low, too low, if the numbers get to be too low, then we have to, I think they will be looking at it as much as we're looking at it about its sustainability.
Yeah.
But it's important to keep it going so it still attracts young families here.
And
as long as
supports
we
them.
Possibly can.
Having it be a licensed organization adds a whole layer of expense. And I just want to recognize that. The other thing, I just want to tell my favorite anecdote. When the littles started doing the early K program, I was at the kids' place and one of them said, you know, Miss Eliza, can I read to you? And I'm like, sure, you're 4. And they weren't reading, but they knew to put their finger and they're telling a story. So that rereading, awareness, of how that happens is enormous. So I would love to know how our kids are doing on their reading skills, based on the early services that they are receiving at the kids' place and with that connection with the school, because that would be an enormous draw for families coming here. I think that would be a good selling point. All right. Also, I just want to recognize it's clear there's significant donations from the community, generosity of the community, making a commitment to keeping it open. So I really want to say, while none of the details are in here, that it's recognized that keeping our licensed childcare open, which is the real foundation of our families out here. Thank you to the generous donors for making that happen. I don't see how the kids' place could operate without it. And as a town, I think we ought to say we're very appreciative of that. Thank you. Okay, I did my piece. Does anyone want to add any more?
Enough said.
No,
Ditto.
no.
One thing that I have seen as a parent is not all parents have utilized the service, which I think is great for those families that don't have to, but what I would like to see is if there is a way that the rec center and Kids Place could work kind of a little bit more collectively with all the families in the community to get the families to stand behind and recognize that the service is really important. Because, I know for a while, myself and maybe 1 or 2 other families were using it full time, and there were families that weren't even utilizing it at all because they didn't have to. It would be nice to have that kind of holistic support where even the families who don't have to use it could contribute towards the use, even if it's 1 day a week, just to keep the numbers going and make it so it's a more functional facility.
Is that an awareness challenge? And people
No.
just aren't.
Oh, no, people are aware. It's just some people don't need it because they're lucky enough to have grandparents or, they can And I understand, you know, people saving money and not having to pay that, but there are, you know, I think it's difficult when you're a full-time working parent and both of your parents are working full-time and you need to have that service. And you have those concerns of what if the service is not available, but there are families who have the ability to not have to pay the money to put their kids into daycare because they have,
Well,
and
I think we're gonna be really careful to not talk about that there are, but what I wanna add is that. By being a licensed childcare, if there's a family, that gives the kids' place the ability to accept funding. So if it's ever a need-based, as a licensed childcare, it gives the ability for the organization to do that. But yeah,
you know, outside funding from elsewhere.
from the state.
Yeah.
So it's another layer of expense being a licensed
They
child.
received, around COVID, they received funding, right?
That was
Okay.
separate, right?
Yeah.
And they do receive funding from the state of Maine. When people are employed at a childcare organization, there's funds that are paid directly added to their paycheck, which is prorated, I believe, for the amount that they work on it, because that's been a debate because it's been on the chopping block. So I haven't followed it in the last couple of months, but it was at risk and then it was reinstated. And I think that that's really important. So the state is supporting over and above what our people are being paid when they're working for organizations like the Kids Place. They get another stipend directly from the state. Did you know that?
I did, and I know that they added benefits and things like that to make the positions more appealing, because
Right.
staffing is not always easy,
Yeah.
which I think that made a big difference.
And a shout out to the recompense, because the recompense was funding the healthcare for the employees at the Kids Place, and that made an enormous difference, I think, to the stability of staff. Look at this, it's taken the recompense and private donors, the town taxpayers supporting this organizations and the parents paying, and it's a big lift, and thank you.
We need some of the parents to start having some more kids.
Earhart,
We
you
start that
cannot,
campaign.
you cannot even joke about that in a meeting. Please.
There's a campaign.
Okay. Any other questions? Can we go on? You know what, Vika, I know you wanted to get through this really quickly, but thank you. I hope that people in these organizations will listen to us. Let's go to the last one we have on our list, which is the Island Commons. And I just want to start by opening up their MOU.
They provided their questions on a separate
Separate paper.
document.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I just want to open up the first one. The Island Commons is asking for 18.5. That is the same amount, is that correct, that was requested
It
last
is the
year?
same amount as last year, and last year was the first year where they had a significant jump from previous years. So historically, with the Island Commons, my recollection is for several years, the town plowed areas like the Commons and the library and so forth, and through insurance reasons, were told that they cannot do that on private
Oh, was that-
property. And so, the Island Commons started receiving about, I think initially it was like a $3,000 contribution, because then they had to pay for plowing that they did historically have to. A couple of years ago, a select board member made the recommendation to increase it to $10,000, recognizing that there are nonprofits that are receiving significantly more than what the Commons ever asked for. And with what the Commons provided, they felt like that was a reasonable increase. So that wasn't an ask by the Commons, that was a recommendation by a previous select board member that was supported. And then last year, they did ask for an increase. So this 18.5 is a fairly new jump, but it is the same as it was last year.
And their mission statement is to enhance the life options for elders by offering care and assistance with daily living, whether aging in place or within our Island Commons theme. And So I think that we can all have that in common. Yes, Richard?
Yeah, so, to me, this has some corollaries to the, so-called Samaritan,
Oh,
where
yes,
the Commons is providing the service that wouldn't be available on the island without the generosity of many donating money and time to the survival of it, and, 18.5 is, I mean, that's not an unreasonable number, I would think, to supply that. They could use probably 4 times that amount of money, but that's not our,
no,
that's not our description.
but yeah, it's,
And I will just say that, as a community, we're very fortunate to have such a facility in such a small community. And it makes life livable for a lot of people. I'm fully in support of, supporting this organization.
one of my pointed questions is, I didn't realize that the council makes a financial contribution to Meals on Wheels. So that would be one of my questions, that it's here, it's listed as their third deliverable. Prepares meals which are delivered to the homebound. I suspect they're talking about Meals on Wheels there.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a big fan of Meals on. So my dad was a driver for years and then for a period of time was a recipient. So it's, I think it's a part of their service that is near and dear to all of us. And, I think that I would have that question. So I'm not gonna go back and look through the documents to see what the financial document, but what I'll say is the financial responsibility of the Commons is enormous. It's enormously complicated. It is clear that the amount of staffing it takes to deliver this is an enormous cost. And that's not even for providing direct service to our people, to our residents who live there and the people receiving in-home care. And when I went to the talk last fall that looked at the cost of delivering these things, or having someone there by the day, the daily rate, and even spend, if someone is there just for daycare, it is an enormous expense. And I want to just say how much I appreciate what the Commons is doing for sustaining our community.
Agreed, I think that
enormous.
thing too is the fact they provide in-home care, which is not very common for these kinds of facilities elsewhere in other communities. That's huge, because that increases capacity to take care of our elders
Yeah.
in the islands,
Yeah.
you know, so.
And nursing, there's no nursing service coming out. Latest as I've heard, in the past, nursing care has come out to the island for people that have needed it post-surgery or other situations, not happening anymore with insurance companies. So the big insurance providers are no longer sending nursing care to the island for follow-up. I think that some of that has fallen to the council and to the Commons as well, and to EMS services.
And that is a contribution that the town used to make to
Correct.
that. And then last year it was the first year that they didn't because no one was coming out.
Because nobody's coming, right? But we do have in the budget for end of life care. There was some
Visiting nurse and hospice.
hospice, yeah, which is provided also at the Commons. Okay. Any comments about that? No? We just love the Commons. We really do. Something. Okay, I want to say if anyone's listening to a recording of this, thank you for your
Thank you.
participation.
Sean Marie and John Wren,
Really? Who?
Finance Committee.
Yeah.
Who and John?
Schiff.
Emmer Johnson. Okay, this concludes our meeting at 10:44.